What are you expecting to see and hear at those hearings next week in the Financial Services Committee?
Well, I think we're going to hear a lot of concerns expressed over what took place, and that's only natural. But the real difficulty is these hearings are premature. The SEC has wisely said that it is going to do a thorough review of everything that occurred. And it seems to me before you can fix any problems, you need to know what the problems are. And it's not clear that anyone fully understands what the problems are. All people have seen are a number of incidents connected to some very volatile trading, but that is just what the appearances are. And one has to think about what the proper role of government is in dealing with these kinds of situations.
Let's talk about the SEC process, because as I understand it, you would understand it better than I. The SEC has taken steps to expedite the issuing of subpoenas. In a typical investigation of this sort, if there is such a thing, how long would such an investigation take by staff?
Well, in a typical investigation, it can go on for months on end. My assumption here is that the commissioners have told the staff that they need results much more rapidly. There are limits to what the staff can do. They're very effective, but they have to issue the subpoenas. They have to call people in. They have to deal with lawyers who are going to try to narrow the scope of the subpoenas and things of that nature. But it's my assumption that this investigation can be done in a matter of weeks.
Is this a different investigation than perhaps when you were there, in the sense that an awful lot seems to be cyber? That in fact there'll have to be forensic unpacking of some of the tweets and the communications, for example, on Reddit by social media. Is that a different sort of investigation?
It is in this respect. The SEC will have to find out who did the postings and what the motivations were behind those postings. The fact that people express themselves favorably about a stock is not itself a criminal activity. But if hypothetically there were people who were acting in concert to try to manipulate the price of the stock artificially, then that could very readily give rise to potential civil and criminal liabilities. That means the SEC has to go behind the postings, learn who made those postings, learn why they made the postings, and also look at any correlative trading activity that those individuals may have engaged in.
So I understand and respect your idea. It makes good sense. Let's figure out what the facts are before we decide what to do about it. But let me jump ahead just a little bit to what you just said. They have to go behind to see who was doing the trading. Might it make sense for the SEC to consider disclosure? Goodness knows, go back to 1934. That's been the mainstay of the SEC, to say you need to not be anonymous when you're posting on social websites like Reddit. Would that make sense?
Well, I think it could make sense, but there's a First Amendment issue as well. I don't think the SEC is going to want to get into a position where it's accused of restraining people from expressing legitimate opinions. But I do think that the SEC can insist that those people who make those postings comply with existing legal requirements. For example, there's a provision in the Securities Act, and that dates back to 1933, that says that if you're being paid to make a posting or to advertise or make statements about a security, you must disclose that at the same time that you make the statements. So there already are some laws on the books. And it seems to me that the SEC can find out whether people have been complying with those laws, and if not, bring actions to ensure that in the future those kinds of things don't happen again.
If you were back in your old job running the SEC, would you at least take into account the rapidity of these trades? It's a different world now where basically it's instantaneous. You can have flash mobs grow up. You might want to let them do what they want to do, say what they want to say, but slow it all down a bit. There are ways the SEC could slow it, couldn't they?
I think there are, and I think one of the first questions that will come up is, are these sites, the websites, and also are the trading venues doing everything that they can do to protect against some of the worst aspects of what we've witnessed? For example, there have been a lot of concerns raised about anonymous postings, and Reddit and other sites can certainly require that individuals who are posting provide certain information at the same time that they're making their postings. I think with respect to a trading venue like Robinhood, one of the things that could be done would be to require those who are members of the trading platform to identify their level of expertise going in, and at least permit the trading venue to understand whether there are people who might need more education than those who have greater experience.
Is it also something that should be at least on the agenda to look at the very structure, the business model, as it were, of a Robinhood? As I understand it, they're a registered broker-dealer, but they have a business model based on what I understand is pay for flow. That is to say, they can do this without charging the people who are actually doing the trading. Is that something we should be taking a look at?
I think it is something that the SEC needs to take a look at. Payment for order flow has been an issue that has been around for a very long time. It raises some serious concerns. If, in fact, the benefits of paying for order flow are funneled back to the traders, the investors themselves, then it can be a very legitimate methodology. But one of the questions that has to be asked is why people are paying for order flow, and whether there needs to be much more disclosure and perhaps even regulation surrounding that practice.
And finally, Harvey, what about what happened when they actually had to shut down trading? Robinhood shut down trading in GameStop for a time, curtailed it, apparently because they had to pony up a lot more money to make sure they were good for the trades. That's pretty extraordinary, isn't it? You don't want a market to have to shut down.
It is an unusual set of circumstances, but what people don't realize is that Robinhood is subject to requirements to post security for its trading activity. This is designed to protect the marketplace as a whole. And as a result, when it gets a request for additional billions of dollars of security, it has several choices. It either has to put up that capital and put it at risk, or it can reduce the volume of trading until it is more manageable and they have enough capital. There are people who think what Robinhood did was to try to help the short sellers, and that's not correct. Robinhood took action to protect the marketplace when it received the notice of putting up more capital.